Fear is the root of basically all of the emotions. So that idea of fear or faith, or fear or love, which in my teachings that I have learned is more about like wanting everything to thrive, embracing your life, moving forward. Whereas fear is a contraction and a stop.
Hmm.
And so the major thing is like, to me, that gratitude piece is so important because it really opens your heart and it helps you embrace life as it is. Because gratitude doesn't have an opinion about, I like this, I don't like this. It's like you're taking the like or dislike and then you're pivoting and you're saying, and ideally we tend to do it with the dislike because we're like, I don't like this. Okay, gonna pivot, be grateful for it. It's like if we can practice that gratitude with the things that we do like and practice that muscle almost. So it's like everything that we, find pleasure in or like or enjoy, if we can actually amp up the enjoyment of that and the gratitude of that and the celebration of that. So say it's like, I woke up and say I didn't have as much body pain as I usually do. Then instead of going, well, but I still have body pain, and go into that, it's like, wow, I have less than I usually do. This is amazing, right? And even doing something like pom-poms or like fake pom-poms and be like, yes, this is amazing. And so in your chemistry, in your words and your movements, you're showing a part of yourself like, I am excited and grateful for this. Thank you. So you start those chemicals going, and you're also orienting yourself to look for more of that instead of looking for more of why I have more pain, why I'm fearful, why I'm grieved, all this kind of stuff. So really, it just keeps pointing to, it starts here to move in the direction you want to move in. And really all we can do is change our orientation to the past if it shows up. And most of the time it's better to kind of just get out of the way. So it's almost like if someone was coming up behind you really fast, right, on the highway or something, it's better just to let them pass. So if your past is like coming up and like, you should be getting upset about this, and you just like, I'm just going to go ahead and move over, let you go by. And there's something about fear that's kind of a response of our instinctual sense that's like, this could be dangerous, or I need to be on high alert. And that is okay. But then there's the acceleration of that and the feeding of that all those thoughts start to accumulate. And then there's stories around that. So like all the possible scenarios that could happen and all of this kind of stuff. So one way to explain it is like, if you were to touch a hot stove, your body will remove the hand very quickly because it doesn't want to get burned. Oh, no. Or if you're on the edge of a cliff or something and you start to step off of it by accident, your body will immediately step back. And so that's the function of that instinctual sense, but it has nothing to do with the stories that we tell about that fear. It's like that, and it just helps you. It wants you to survive. So when people say, well, fear helps me, not necessarily, but fear will most of the time hurt you. And then fear will often lead to all of the other emotions. And the root of that fear is often fear of the unknown. It's like we honestly, we don't ever know. As much as we engage our intellects, we pose scenarios, we take the past experiences and try to make them into future experiences, we never truly know what is going to happen. Like something seemingly as mundane as I have some meetings later today, you don't know exactly how those are going to go. You have a general, maybe you have a plan, or you kind of know that person, so you kind of know what to expect or something, but you never really know. So if we actually take some refuge in that unknown and go, I don't know, right? So there's a Zen mantra, which is clear mind, don't know. And so with the inhale, clear mind, exhale, don't know. And it's not like clear mind, damn it, I don't know. It's clear mind, I don't know. And there's like a liberation to that not knowing, because we spend a lot of our energy and time ruminating and creating stories and creating scenarios that never happen. So why not spend that energy not having a negative instinctual bias, which you'll hear that humans have. Like we fear the worst, we're ruminating, we're fearing, we're worrying, we're getting anxious. instead to use that energy that we would otherwise use on that to use on something positive in the direction we want to go. And of course, that voice will come up in your head that says, well, you don't want to be a fool, or don't be so optimistic. You don't want to be a Pollyanna. And it's like, if you just understand very logically that your thoughts and energy and intention are valuable commodity, and what you choose to spend that on is up to you. And it's, why not spend it on that positive outcome? Why not spend it on those positive images in your head, those positive mantras, those positive movements in the direction you want to go? Because otherwise it's going to get spent in this other way. And then what's the end of that? You know, part of us will say, well, if I don't think of all the negative scenarios and focus on the negative, then something bad's going to happen. And then when something bad ever happens in your life, then that part of you goes, oh, check, a good thing I spent all that time getting all worried about it. You don't know if, because you spent all this time worrying and getting fearful about it, that that's why something happened in the end. Like, ultimately, there's so many inputs into our lives. There's so many possibilities. What we can take responsibility for is how we approach a situation. And what I was reflecting on today was, I was kind of ruminating about an email I had sent, and oh man, I should have said it this way or said it that way, and this is how the person responded, and like feeling really uncomfortable that that was out there and in that person's sphere. And I was like, oh, I should have said it differently, and now they're thinking this and thinking that. And instead of approaching that email and rereading it, like when, like sometimes you reread a post or you reread a comment and you're like, oh, I totally missed that part. What I did was my old behavior of rereading the email, but I approached it more from, how could I read this and not feel reactive about it? So how could I read their response to me and feel like, okay, this is what it is. I don't have to like it or not like it. I don't have to feel like the world is ending. I don't have to feel anxious or fearful. And so what I did with that tendency of mine to go over and over something is I tried to actually engage with it in a useful way, which was, I'm going to read this and I'm going to feel how I feel in my body, and I'm going to do my breathing. I'm just going to breathe in, breathe out as I read this, and I'm going to allow whatever feelings to come up, and I'm not going to have a story about those feelings. I'm just going to let them come up and pass through, and come up and pass through. And every time I reread this email, actually, the feeling that I was feeling at said paragraph was less and less as I did this. So instead of wrapping myself around a story of like, oh, I shouldn't have done this, oh, they're upset with me, I could actually read through it and try to release those feelings, because I can't control how they perceive what I wrote. I can't change that I put it out there and I wrote it. But what I can do is I can change the feeling that it's invoking inside of me, and it feels all stuck and it feels, ugh. So I want to reach more of that flow and that sense of ease. And I think a lot of it is about surrender. Sometimes control is basically anytime we're not flowing with the unknown, we have a sense of we need to control something, right? So that some people show up with that need for control stronger than others in general. It's like more their tendency. But if we think of any time we're basically not in that flow of what is, we're in some sense trying to control something. And control, that tightening, right? Got to have control. And also feeling out of control are kind of two sides of the same coin. So both of those require some surrender. And one other thing I wanted to share was something that I use both internally for my own thoughts and processes, but also externally to others, is when people want to get real tight around an opinion, or I have some preconception or some story about how someone is being or how they're acting or what they're thinking. You don't ever know. You never know. So kind of having some mantra with that is, that's one possibility. And so when that shows up, you can just be like, okay, well, that's one possibility. And then your mind creates some other story. Then you're like, that's one possibility. And so the same way that you can do that on the external, if people want to fight with you about things, or say that their opinion is the only opinion, that's one possibility. They're not necessarily going to like you saying that, and you don't have to say it in a snarky or sarcastic way, but really that's the truth of it. It is one possibility. There is no one right answer for any particular situation. So for Chinese medicine wise, for fear, which is, I'm going to focus on that because it is the root of all the other negative emotional states, is this contracted, what we call water energy. So if you think of water that's being dammed up is a certain kind of way of seeing it, or water that's sitting stagnant like in a swamp. So these kind of pathological conditions of water can create a different kind of feeling inside of us. Chinese medicine is based on human and nature are interconnected, and so we mirror each other, and we have those same elements and seasons and movements that you see outside in nature. We have those inside as well. So like our own kind of internal weather and conditions and environments. And so if we're really stuck in that water phase, it's like the winter phase. It's like a contraction phase. So if you think about winter in most climates, things look fairly dead on the surface. The trees have lost their leaves. There's a kind of quietude, not as much sunshine, sometimes snow. And it's just it's real quiet on the outside, and like inside, down under the soil, maybe the seeds are starting to sprout or get ready to sprout in the spring and that, but everything's pretty quiet and contracted. And so when that energy that's natural that way, but when that energy gets too contracted, then that shows up as that fear response where it can't open up. It's just like a tight fist, and it can't open up to the flow, movement, and growth of life. And when you're feeling that fear piece, it's like to have that grounding and soothing energy can help you kind of release that tightened fist, can help you just start to open up to what is right now and relax around that, because life is happening aside from you. It's not like I show up and then suddenly life is happening. The flow of life is happening. You go to sleep at night, you wake up. It's not like the world goes, oh, she's up, I'm here. It's like it's always happening. So when I open up to the flow of what's actually happening that I have no control over, more you can open up to that and then decide, kind of, you're on that river. Okay, where do I want to move my ship? That's the direction that you are consciously choosing to take in that way. But if you're like a clam that's tight shut and you can't let anything in there, it's just like, or an ostrich with their head in the sand, that's that fear mode. Everything's tight, everything's shut down. And so if you can start to kind of soothe and open that up, to let that life force flow through you and start to move forward. Basically, when we get stuck in any state, so like I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling fearful, or I'm feeling anxious, we tend to have this kind of freeze response where we're physically stuck there, and we're going over it and over it and over it and over it. So even just, if you could just manage to roll out of bed, if you're in bed, or if you're sitting down, stand up, or if you're standing up, move your arms around, do a jumping jack, do something. Moving the body is going to help something deep inside of you understand that something else has to move too, and that can be the thoughts and the emotions. So if you can start on the level of the body and just do something even very simple to change, basically you're trying to change states because this state is not working very well and is potentially hurting you. So how can I move out of this? And so for me, like if I can't get outside, or it's too hot to get outside or something like that, and I'm inside, then maybe I want to do something like, oh, I don't want to do exercise. I don't feel like doing yoga. I don't know. And then I get stuck in that. Okay, I'm going to vacuum the couches. I'm going to sweep the floor. I'm going to clean the toilet. Like you just wash the dishes, just do some small task where you're actually doing something physical. And actually that will, because you're then focused on that task, as many times as you've done it, you still have to pay some attention to wiping down the counter or sweeping the floor. You actually start to divert the attention to something else, and therefore you're starting to change your state. Smiling, even if you don't feel like it, it's a great idea. Set a timer on your phone And then when you start to have emotions that you realize, oh, I'm heading in the wrong direction, literally just put on that smile, even if it's a fake smile. But ideally, when you start to smile, you'll start to feel like your heart open and you start to feel that gratitude piece. I have a friend who does laughter yoga, and she used to have a timer on her phone where she would spend like so many minutes laughing. So you can, again, you can start that also with kind of a fake laugh, or you start to be silly. One of my favorite recommendations from her is to feel like you're Jello, and you shake around and then you start laughing, you know, feeling like you're Jello. So there's different things. If you look into laughter yoga, you can see that. But basically the idea is that that joy, that great happiness that is inherent to life, and it's always there actually. And when we feel ourselves going into those toxic emotions, we're actually off track. And so by smiling, by having gratitude, by opening up and being grateful for our life and embracing our life, what a pleasure and miracle it is that we're actually here. You know, then that starts to move us actually into that flow, which is actually much easier, and it's always there for us. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this has been useful.